So I'm here, what month is it? It's January. I'm here in Teton National Park with the buffalo. Getting a little too close. Think I'm gonna go back that way. But they're out here feeding and browsing, pushing the snow back and forth. They have those huge muzzles, and I guess the skin on the face of their heads is about that thick from what I'm told. And they can brush and push snow back and forth and really dig into the ground and eat the grass deep down underneath this deep snow. But they just winter over here out in these flats, browsing as best they can for vegetation. They've grown long, thick hair on them that they don't have in the summer months when it's warmer. You can see it hanging off of them almost like a yak. If you've seen a yak, you can look at pictures of those. Y-A-K is a yak, or a muskox. They have that longish hair. Kind of interesting. These two came roaming over close to me. Now they're starting to push away. It's really pretty out here in the winter. There's a couple over there, a couple of bulls right there. We're kind of button heads. They're doing it again right now. Button heads and kind of fighting a little bit. Grand Tetons behind. They're really kind of pushing each other now. You see that? Being kind of aggressive there with their horns. Button heads and pushing each other around. They're kind of making this low, guttural, grumbling noise as they feed. Kind of interesting. Almost sounds like a deep burp or a deep belch. Here's one. They're crossing the road over there and the cars are having to stop out there. Oh, there now it's running. There's a whole bunch on the other side of the highway too. So anyway, I thought you guys would think this is interesting to see these buffalo out here. There's usually buffalo out here. Well, there quite often is in this section of the park. But they're not always close to the road, so it's kind of cool to see them close. But there used to be millions and millions and millions of buffalo all over the North American continent, from Mexico all the way up to what's now Alaska, up to the Arctic Circle, all the way across the United States to the east, all the way down into Florida. I read a cool book by Steve Ranella a year or two ago. I think it's called American Bison or American Buffalo or something like that. I'd have to look it up, but it weaves the story of a hunt he did up in Alaska for buffalo, when he harvested a buffalo hunting, and then he researched the history of buffalo in the Americas, the North America, and it's really fascinating. I didn't realize they covered all of the United States like that. In fact, the early American history, a lot of the routes they put in or the paths they put in for wagon or horseback riding, when the colonists are around, they'd follow these buffalo paths, because when thousands of animals travel through an area, they really beat down the vegetation and kind of break out the undergrowth in the forest, and so they kind of created these natural paths because there were so many of them. In fact, when they used to hunt them on the Great Plains, because there were thousands and thousands of buffalo in a herd, if not more than that, tens of thousands, they'd look for the dust being raised by their hooves, and then they could go over the rolling hills and they'd find these herds and so forth. pretty cool animals. I'm standing this close just because the snow's deep, so they're not going to run fast, and there's a fence between me. They could hop over this, but normally I wouldn't come up this close to them. It's not all that safe in the summer when there's not deep snow, and I wouldn't come up this close. So if you come out to the park, be careful, because they do have those two horns. Anyway, one last look here. As they graze around, that guy's gonna make a run for it and go across the road again. Oh, he's hanging out on the edge. All right, this might have been a short field trip. I don't know if I'll get any more footage. It might only be 8 or 9 or 10 minutes long here. So, but Grand Teton National Park. A lot of the buffalo pull out of the park and go down to the National Elk Refuge, 30 miles that way or so, down by Jackson. But then a lot of them will just hang up here and winter over if they can here on these flats. It's really cool. And like I said, they're here kind of all year round. You can always find them here on these flats, just in front of the Tetons. So, you see this guy pushing the snow around. Let's see if we can get him doing that. Oh, he just stopped. He's using his muzzle to really sweep the snow back and forth. And then now he's eating the grass that he exposed down in there. So. Oh, there's a mama and a calf. There's a bunch of calves out here. It's funny, it sounds like this whole herd is just burping and belching with that low guttural noise they make. It's really kind of cool. They're starting to move again. There they go. Even the buffalo calf is pretty big. All right, guys, thanks for coming on this field trip. Come see the buffalo in Grand Teton Park someday.